Welcome, good morning. 8 o'clock, but up we are and away. This is a hotspot, and the aim of a hotspot is basically to give 5 very varied people with very varied backgrounds a chance to share what they do with you and their thoughts on the way the world might turn in the coming year. And we've got basically 4 people in the communications industry and 1 person into manure. And it is your task, there will be no prize, apart from the honor of winning, to guess who that person is at the end of it all. Anyway, on my left, on your right, let me introduce people. Joe Burton, who's a CTO with Cisco Systems in their unified communications bit. Connie Wong, CEO of Vidiator. Balan Nair, who's the CEO of Liberty Global, one of the world's big cable operators. Jim Butler, General Manager, the communications sector for Greater China for Microsoft. Now there's a title. And David Morris, who's the CEO of a company called EcoVerdance. So I'm going to give you basically 5 minutes each to enthuse and inform. Joe, first of all, tell me what the big things coming your way, heading your way, you think are in the coming year. Tell us what you do, first of all, and what you think's heading your way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, go ahead.
Can you hear at the back? Is that mic?
Yeah.
Is he mic'd up enough? Yeah, okay, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, good. I thought I could hear it heading out. So I lead the strategy, architecture, and vision around unified communications for Cisco. Unified communications is, of course, how we bring together voice communications, video communications, instant messaging, web, some of the virtual reality stuff, and everything that everybody's talking about. What we're actually looking at out of my team for the next 5-6 years really plays out across 3 different waves of innovation. First wave of innovation is to take unified communications from being a separate process, where you're over here doing your job and you get stuck, and then you break task and go communicate. How do we bring communications into every single business process, application, and device? And when I say device, I mean mobile phone, PC, cable set-top box, digital camera. So anytime you get stuck, you can actually, right where you are, you can reach over and do the equivalent of a right click and see the list of people that can help you with the exact problem that you're involved in. So not just all your friends, but how do we bring together social networking, tagging, semantic web, and other technologies to get you the help that you need right where you need it on any device. So this is kind of wave 1.
So I say in the coming year, it's a figurative year. In the near future, or the conceivable future, what are the humps that you foresee that you're going to have to get over?
Yeah, so there's a couple of humps, to it, but the piece that I just described is largely coming right now. There are significant-sized customers that are rolling things out from Cisco and other companies, to be fair. But number 1, it's exposing all this communications goop that's always been very hard through a set of very friendly web service type interfaces, so the web people can consume all this. And number 2, it's how do we go through and figure out who's good at what? How do I know who the right person is to, who the right people are to help with a loan approval of over $75,000 for a house in the San Juans that's near the water? So, yes.
Thank you very much. Connie, what's on your horizon?
My company, Vidiator, is a video streaming technology that provides multimedia content to mobile. Now we extended that to TV and internet to bring the 3 screens together to allow people to take multimedia content to anywhere. So basically, the philosophy of the company that I use normally 4 I's. First one is immediacy, because everybody wants some information right now. So when we build our platform, we have this 4 I's in our mind is immediacy. People want to get involved, so can I be part of that? That's why Twitter or Facebook being so popular. And the next one is how to interact, be able to talk to people, and also being informed. So these are the 4 I's that we build our product around.
There's one thing that suddenly strikes me that we didn't, or I didn't hear yesterday in this conference, I may have missed it, the R word. We all know what that is. It's the recession. How does that bear on the way in which you're now looking forward?
For Vidiator, so far we have not, it has slowed down, especially in Asia, but in Europe we are still growing. Because mobile, everybody still have to use the cell phone, and people want to, because of the high-end phone now is getting more popular and more affordable, people are still buying phone and upgrade to a high-end phone. So our growth this year in Europe still very good. It's still positive, not negative. So in the telco space, I don't see great recession. Has slowed down a little bit, but still operators are still investing. And also companies that are not in the mobile space, now they are looking at how to expand their company into the mobile space, including like a lot of big companies like
Sure.
HP or Cisco, they were not in the mobile space. Everybody basically jumped on the bandwagon, wanted to provide a piece of the platform for the mobile industry.
Is it rough out there?
Is it rough out there? Yes, it is, personally, for sure. My 401k is now shrinking down to, it is rough.
I didn't want to get that personal, but feel free, you know.
Yeah, I thought this is a free forum. And anyway, it is rough, especially I can feel pain more in Asia rather than in Europe. Asia, because it's still, besides China, we're still growing. We just get an order from China Unicom because they're still building 3G. So 3G basically allow us to continue to grow. Country like China just launched 3G. Turkey just issued a number of 3G licenses. So we are still growing, but I see the pain, coming.
Okay. Balan?
Sure. I work for a company called Liberty Global, and we own satellite properties, cable properties around the world, as well as content in Europe as well. In 5 years, I'm sure that in the United States, you'll at least have one fixed line operator offering a 1 gigabit service product to the home. Mobile operators will be offering 100 megabit service. But the actual experience is going to be different. I am also convinced that almost everybody in this room will actually have a 200 megabit service to your home in 5 years, or at least know somebody or friend that has one, and you will actually experience a true 10 megabit service on mobile, a true experience. So the question begs the question: what applications would really, drive that kind of bandwidth? I guess you can look at, if you want to fill that pipe, a number of different corner cases where you could probably run, 5 simultaneous uncompressed 3D high definition content to your home, or some next generation 4K type video. But that's not really how you'd look at it, because it's no longer about how you fill the pipe, but it's about the response time of the pipe. And so today, if you're running very complicated applications, as you buy your devices, you look at the clock speed on your processors. In 5 to 6 years, you're no longer looking at the clock speed, you're looking at the pipe speed, and that's how you determine how you want to run your apps. So the implications would be you'll see a lot more developers actually building even more complex applications sitting in the network or in the cloud. If you look today, most application developers are still building to optimize for a 3 to 4 megabit type pipe. Imagine when they start building applications to optimize for about 100 megabit type pipe. The barriers of entry into a lot of businesses drop quite a bit. And there'll be other implications to different industries. In the software world, one can argue 5 to 7 years from now, will you be buying as many applications, client-based applications, as you would today? Chip manufacturers, you would look at, you'll still build very high MIPS chips for servers, but one can argue, would you really need that for the PCs or your netbooks? And for PC makers, it'll be a whole new round of devices that you'll be selling. at the same margins today because your BOM drops dramatically. So you'll see a whole bunch of different activities there as well. On the provider side, on the operator side, I think architectures like fiber to the home and HFC will win the day. Architectures that's predicated on DSL will have a finite life in that new environment. And certain telcos will have to start figuring out, do you want to upgrade your plant to fiber to the home, which is a significant capital spend, so you see a lot of infusion in capital, but it's an irrational investment, at least from an ROI perspective. So a lot of cable telco executives will have to try to figure out, okay, do I make an irrational ROI investment, or do I worry about the terminal value of my business? So that will play out in the next 4 or 5 years as well. The back-end IP networks is going to fill up. So there's a whole bunch of different implications.
Sure. You're in lots and lots of different markets.
Right.
Let's introduce this R word. How is that impacting in different places? What jumps out?
Sure. I think in different parts of our businesses, the recession's in fact affected differently. In the actual operator subscription business, where you sell voice, video, and data, nothing's recession-proof, but it's more immune just because those are basic services. You're not selling luxury products, so people still want to buy. In these tough times, nobody's willing to give up their broadband connection.
Good. Jim, you arguably have the best job in the world, working for Microsoft in China. It must be very, very exciting.
It is great. I've lived there 3 years and don't want to leave. So it's great.
Why?
It's just a really exciting place, an exciting time to be. You can't pick up the newspaper without reading something about China. It's in the headlines every day. So it's
and where, I should know this, but I don't. Where are you based in Shanghai?
I'm in Beijing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so, just paint the picture of what your life is like and what you're doing and what that company's doing there.
Well, so I manage our communications sector business. So I manage a sales team that calls on the big telecommunications companies in China, and it's an industry that's, it's a very dynamic, exciting, growth industry for China. So it's an exciting place to be for Microsoft.
And is it as simple as that? Is it just knocking on doors and persuading a customer to look at the figures and make a judgment, or does the state figure in there? What is the process? How does it work?
Well, I think most people who come to China will come away saying it's the toughest thing that they've ever done in their lives. And I would say that's true of my job. It's the toughest thing I've ever done. Business is done very differently. It seems most executive MBA programs have a requirement now to visit China. So I talk to all sorts of groups that come to China and they spend their 1 week in Beijing. And they all have business plans and they see this massive market and they think they're here to grab the easy money in China. And I'm not sure if there was ever any easy money. If there was any easy money in China, it's long gone. And so what I tell people now, if you look sort of out at the future, I tell them they should be thinking as much about how they're going to protect their existing markets from Chinese competition in the future as they do about trying to grab market share or grow a business in China. The manufacturing business is quickly moving up the food chain. It used to be stuff at Walmart or Party Depot, and now it's moving to cars, planes, pharmaceutical industry. I mean, soon you'll be able to buy a GM car, made in China in the United States. And so the manufacturing is moving very quickly up the food chain. It's not really about sort of very low-end export consumer kinds of products. It's very quickly moving up to almost every single industry. And so, that's my message to companies when they come to visit is, it's great you're focused on this big market in China and how you want to grow it, but you also better be looking at how you can protect your existing worldwide businesses, because there's probably somebody in China that's also planning on taking share from you around the world.
Is your competition Chinese homegrown competition, or is it the same competition you face in, I don't know, India, wherever?
Well, the software market's a little more fragmented in China than it is around the world. We spend a lot of our time sort of talking about the importance of respecting intellectual property rights. So that's a lot of what we do is, education and evangelization of, respect for intellectual property, including Microsoft software.
And are you making progress there?
We are. We're making progress. Probably not at the pace that we'd like to, but it's very slow. I guess another message to people who want to tackle the Chinese market: you have to be very, very patient, and that's that's what we are. We're very patient. We're making slow progress. We wish it was probably faster, but there's slow progress being made.
There is a cliched view, and I suspect a false view, and journalists are probably very, very guilty of peddling it, that standards in China are somehow laxer, to do with copyright protection particularly, to do with labor standards, to do with the environment and whatever. What do you say the truth is?
Well, I guess I see it where, you know, the Chinese, I think over time, are going to also want to have a much bigger say in sort of the development of standards around the world. So you look at their 3G homegrown standard, they're trying to implement TD-SCDMA, and right now it's still sort of an immature technology, but I can tell you that's going to start showing up all sorts of places around the world, particularly in Africa, and you can't underestimate the Chinese persistence and determination to make things like that successful. Right now, I think everyone sort of has a good laugh when that acronym comes up, but trust me, they're going to pour whatever money and time it takes to make that successful down the road, or the next variation of that. And so, you know, they're very, very persistent and determined.
Let me ask you one more cliched journalistic question, a cheap question, but it's often asked. Is the 21st century going to be the Chinese century?
I think so. From, you know, living in Beijing, I think so.
Got the innovation there as well? I mean, the mindset of entrepreneurial skill and innovation, as well as the ability to manufacture?
Well, I think they need to work on sort of their innovation side of what they do, but they're very good at copying existing things, and you know, they have big plans. You know, they're not happy just sort of being a country of manufacturing low-end sort of consumer goods. They have big dreams and plans for their country, and I think they're going to be largely successful in a lot of things that they go after.
Okay. Before I come to David, a thought to the people at the back. If I want to take questions, is that going to be possible? And if it's not, can it be? Finally, David Morris, who's the CEO of a company called EcoVerdance, and you were here. Who makes manure? He makes fertilizer. He doesn't call it manure, but that's what it is. It's a kind of fertilizer made out of kelp, but he's got a very, very interesting business model about how you make money out of that. And a year ago, he was outlining those plans. So I'm intrigued to know, first of all, you need to explain what the plans were, and David as well, how they've turned out.
Certainly, thank you. You can't trust this guy to follow directions.
I was told to ask him, he told me to ask him a question, which I've forgotten.
The product we have is a kelp-based product. We get the kelp-based product from Nova Scotia. The kelp goes through a 20-foot rise and fall of tides, which increases the stress of the product, which increases the plant hormones that we get out of it, and it's hormones that are used, that every plant has. And what we've done is we've been able to stabilize this product so its efficacy is year to year to year. We were the spotlight company last year, and we came in with some pretty high expectations. Part of the business model was built around trading carbon credits. The carbon credit market has not materialized, but I think that this administration is going to change all that. So the carbon credit part of the model is down the road about 2 to 3 years. When we monetize the carbon credits, there's some large money in that. What we do is we put 8 ounces of our product, Acceligro, on a plant, 3 applications, one for a seed treatment, one at a 3-leaf foliar stage when the plant comes up, and another treatment right before fruiting. And what we found is that strategic placement of the plant growth cycle, we're able to increase the capability of that plant. 8 ounces per acre, a total cost to the farmer of about less than $15. And what we're able to get out of that is at least a 35% improvement in crop yields. Now, we took this product to Africa in Kenya, Burundi, and Uganda last year. We had high expectations of what we're going to do in East Africa. I can say today that we've exceeded our expectations, and I'll tell you why. And we have about 1,000 farms that we're dealing with, and 4 commercial operations in flower and fruit and vegetables and sugarcane. And on the 1,000 farms, in the first growing season last year, we went from, on maize, production. We went from the normal production in Africa of 16 bushels an acre to over 60 bushels per acre. And the pride that you get out of the farmers when you do something like this in Africa is absolutely astounding. So we have about 1,000 farms on maize, rice, upland rice, as well as wet rice, cassava. We're working with some biofuel companies on jatropha. We're seeing that we can get fruit on jatropha plants in about 2 years because of the increased growth rates. We're also working with the president of Burundi to treat the equivalent of 17 million fruit trees. The president of Burundi is a very benevolent president, and he wants to be able to feed his people. 10 years post-war conflict, 95% of the people there are in agriculture. So it's important that we get our product in there. And what we've seen is we've treated about 20,000 trees lately, the most recent trip. So this is going to be the equivalent of 28,000 acres that we're going to treat in Burundi. So we've been successful. We're also working with some country organizations. We're working with AGRA, which is the Alliance for a Greening Revolution in Africa, under the Gates and Rockefeller Foundation. We're doing seed treatment trials there. We're working with ICRAF, which is the International Center for Forestry Research. We're doing 6 indigenous trees in Africa. I'll tell you specifically about one tree. It's called Allan Blackia. Allan Blackia is a tree that creates a pod that's 60% cooking oil that has 0 cholesterol. Unilever's wants to buy as much as they can possibly get. The only problem is they can't domesticate it. When you take the seedlings out of the forest and put them in a greenhouse, they develop a leaf blight. The seeds of the Allan Blackia tree takes about 2 to 3 years to germinate. We put our Exceligo product on, the seeds germinate in 6 weeks, and the trees that are now in the greenhouses are vivacious, and they're growing about 2 centimeters every 2 weeks. So if we can commercialize that, we have a nice cash crop. So in our opinion, we've exceeded our expectations on the small farmers. We're working in commercial flowering operations at Oserian. We're working in fruit and vegetables, and we're working in Uganda at the Lugazi sugar facility on sugarcane. We treated sugarcane there. The 45-day-old report and the 90-day-old report came back, and they said that it looked as good as the 6-month-old sugarcane. So we've been very successful.
So, but your business model last year was predicated on 2 steps, wasn't it? Making the fertilizer work,
Right.
which you say you've done.
Yes.
But then getting the carbon credits from what it does. And you say that hasn't been done because of politics?
Basically politics and a cap and trade system in the United States. Once that happens, that's going to happen in the next 2 to 3 years. So our business model's changed to selling the product to large corporations in Africa. And one of the things that resonates from last year's conference for us is when Ty Carlson comes in and looks at your business plan and says, you know, your go-to-market strategy is somewhat different. We were planning to give the product to the small farmer and recoup the carbon credits. And he said that you really need not give it to the farmer. So what we're doing is we're doing a microloan of the product to the farmer and getting the return after they receive the product.
But very briefly, you need Obama to deliver now.
Yeah, I think that the current administration is going to pass some type of cap and trade.
A man with faith in politicians, everyone. Let me take questions, if I may. Anybody there burning to say something? I can see a hand at the back.
Say it again. Thanks. My name is Tom Galizzi. I'm with Deloitte. I had a question relative to China, and I guess it goes to sort of the Cisco side of things and the Microsoft side of things. For US-based or European-based global multinationals trying to operate successfully in China, and I think Mark alluded to, it's sort of an unfair fight, both in the local market and how that local market supports their global growth. How do you effectively compete in that frame in the local market? And for Cisco against a player like Huawei, where it's just not a fair fight. So I'm curious as to the things and steps you take to make it a more fair fight.
Jim first, then Joe.
Well, I think it's more Joe's sort of business than it is my business, because he has to compete against those guys all the time. So I'll first let him take sort of a stab at that.
Yeah, you bet. You mentioned competition against very solid local competitors like a Huawei in China. In our case, what we've done to actually fight that is actually to put more investment in. So instead of just taking US products and trying to push them in China, we've actually opened our third Cisco world headquarters in Shanghai. We've relocated several senior vice presidents, hired a significant amount of staff into China. We're doing we're actually doing product design, product manufacturing in China, where it's more than just doing cheap manufacturing there that was brought up earlier. But as we've actually invested in China and started building products for the local economy using local design talent and whatnot, we've actually found a pride of ownership. It's kind of odd. Now that these Cisco products are Chinese products, if you will, there seems to be a real reluctance to engage in any of the alleged bad behavior that was going on 10 or 15 years ago. So by actually coming in and being a good local company in China, we really seem to have gotten past all those things you're talking about, and we're doing just fine against the local guys.
Anybody else?
I'd like to add about it's 21st century,
Go
whether
on.
it's China or not. I see a phenomenon that China moving more and more as a capitalist country, and U.S. is moving more and more as a socialist country. So I think that is something that we need to watch out, because China basically is totally focus on the economy side, and they are concerned about environmental issues, but they are so focused, and it's a single party country. So there's very little fight from the top level. And while we are transforming in the U.S. In terms of a lot of the concerns and issues, and so I think that will shape the future of what's going on between here and there.
I wanted to ask anyway, is that system, if that's the right word, where you have a strong government and an absence of democracy and a vibrant capitalism, is that sustainable?
I think so, because China, being Chinese, I have to be very careful what I said. I'm an American citizen. But being the China government, basically they are sensible, and they can move fast enough that they continuously changing the policy to drive growth in the country. They will move around people now from the coastal area back to the farming, back to the inland and farming while there's recession. So they change the policy all the time. They want the factory to shut down. They change the labor law over time to move the people, massive of people move back to the village.
Sure, but let's say, I'm watching the clock here, but let's say in 20 years' time or 30 years' time, when presumably the expectations of the people, apart from their incomes, have risen, is that still sustainable? I mean, no government can be that wise, can it? Isn't that the point? Isn't that the point of democracy?
Yes, I think it's sustainable, and it's an evolution. Even though you look at China as a communist party, I don't see any communism basically is driving the country right now. And there are like decentralization of power to local government, but the central government still control in certain aspect. But they are evolving, and there's no single party or single person basically run the country. Communism is dictatorship almost, but
well,
not
almost,
in China.
it is.
Yeah, well, not in China anymore. There's not a single person can make decision on behalf of the country.
I'm intrigued by this. Our time really is out. Are you saying that there's some kind of complicated system of governance, whereby it somehow works and there is the will of the people reflected there?
Yeah, I think so. If you look at Singapore or China, it's basically single party. The goal is very simple versus US. Even though we only have two parties, we still have a lot of issues to overcome. And so that's why it's easier for them to move forward and change the policy than what we're doing. But of course, we've been through the growth in the last 50 years in China, like just starting and learning how to grow, to become a world leader.
But you are still wary of talking in California, even though you're now a US citizen.
Yeah.
That says it all. Thank you very much.